Thank you for staying with us on Morning Express. Still staying with our line of discourse, the hashtag End Bad Governance protest that is currently ongoing nationwide. We're now being joined by Right Honorable Samuel Peter Aye. He is the Deputy Speaker, Nigerian Youth Parliament, alongside Mr. Rasheed Yusuf, who is the Executive Assistant to the Minister of Youth and Sports Development. Gentlemen, you are welcome to the studio.
Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Well, let me start with you, Right Honorable Samuel. The protest has already begun nationwide. I'll bet in Lagos it has started, in Abuja it has started, but in other states of the nation, from reports that we have seen out there in the field, the turnout of people is quite minute. But in Abuja, there is already tension between the Commissioner of Police in Abuja and the protesters there. What do you make of this development?
Well, I think that the reason why we have low turnout in other states is not far from the fact that the government has tried its best to discourage Nigerians to come out to protest. And unfortunately, they have succeeded in using the tool of fear to repress Nigerians to go back. But I tell you that with what is happening in Abuja and Lagos currently, you would see that other states will pick up and then the numbers will keep increasing. Unfortunately, things are going the way they are. For every well-meaning Nigerian, we actually would not have loved to go to the streets to protest. But it appears as if the only option that the young people of Nigeria have now is hitting the streets, because from experience, government hardly listens to people until they take to the street. I just wish that the things that we are all asking for as Nigerian young people, government will actually look at them and find a solution.
Now let's look at some of the list of demands, especially from the perspective of young persons, because we saw 10 demands, some listed within the first 7 days and others to start at the 1st of October. Many are looking at the timeline that some of them might not be readily achievable, but we've seen a deployment of 110 billion naira in what is called the National Youth Investment Fund, some other palliatives distributed to states, fertilizers and grains. Many are saying, did it have to wait till now, and how many more can be done to assuage the earnings of Nigerians?
The truth is that all these initiatives are laudable and they're good, but unfortunately they came at a wrong time, because these yearnings, these aspirations have been on for quite some time. I expected that the Nigerian government would have found a way of engaging with young people before now. Look at within the past 1 week, there have been several engagements with young people.
Town halls
meetings,
the National Assembly.
Town hall meetings. Just yesterday we were at the National Assembly for a town hall meeting that was called by the Honorable Speaker of the House of Reps. Now, this engagement is coming at a time when the tension is already heightened. If that conversation had come earlier than yesterday, I think it would have made more sense to Nigerian youths and make them believe that they didn't come for that town hall meeting because of the planned protest. Because as we all will agree or not, it is because of that protest.
Can you give us a brief overview of what was discussed at the town hall? We see that you are very large on youth engagements. We'll listen to the speaker shortly, but let's have an overview of some of the discussions that were had at the National Assembly yesterday.
Well, the central point of the discussion yesterday, even though not directly, was to address the issue of this protest and to see how, as a government, they could persuade young Nigerians to not hit the streets today and for the remaining 9 days in protest for the end of bad governance. Several initiatives of government were outlined yesterday, many of which the young people in Nigeria think are just theories. Because from the conversations yesterday, many Nigerians are wondering if these initiatives are in place, who are the primary beneficiaries? You talked about the 110 billion naira for the Youth Investment Fund. Yes, it is there. But before now, many young people could not access those funds. I would appreciate what the Ministry of Youth Development is doing to ensure that young people have access to these funds. But when you now go to the aspect of the rice that was distributed to states, you ask yourself, did they not get to the people
who are suffering hunger and starvation in this country? Those are some of the issues.
Well, just hold your thought on that, Honorable Samuel. Let's quickly take a look at a video of the Honorable Speaker, House of Representatives, Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, speaking to youth at the engagement that was held yesterday. Take a listen.
Nigerians, our beloved youths, I address you today with a heart full of empathy and a deep sense of duty. We are living through challenging times, and I want to acknowledge the difficulties that many of you, especially our youth, are facing. The economic pressures, social uncertainties, and other related concerns weigh heavily on our nation. Your frustrations and reservations are not lost on us. We hear your cries for change, for a better and more equitable Nigeria. I want to assure you that these concerns are taken with the utmost seriousness by the government of President Bola Tinubu, GCFR. We are committed to listening, engaging, and working with you to find sustainable solutions to the issues that confront us. The government has initiated several policies and programs aimed at addressing the needs and aspirations of our youth. One of such initiatives is the introduction of student loan to ease the burden of educational expenses and ensure that no Nigerian youth is denied the opportunity to pursue their academic dreams due to financial constraints. The Tinubu-led administration has also made significant strides in providing access for funds for young entrepreneurs. Such various schemes such as the Consumer Credit Scheme, designed to support innovation and enterprise. In addition, we are focusing on job creation and skills development. Programs aimed at enhancing employability and creating sustainable livelihoods are being prioritized. We are committed to ensuring that the Nigerian youth are not only job seekers, but job creators. I also want to highlight the efforts of the House of Representatives in this regard. We are in the process of developing formal legislative mechanisms to ensure continuous engagements and dialogue with our youth. We believe that your voices must be heard, and we are creating platforms for regular interactions to build consensus on the way forward. Therefore, I urge you to remember that nation building is a collective task. We must shun violence and embrace dialogue. Your right to protest is acknowledged and respected. Let us use the legitimate avenues to express our grievances and work together towards constructive solutions. At this juncture, I appeal to the proponents of these planned nationwide protests to show their action in the interest of our dear nation. Let's give the government more time. Let's open doors for purposeful dialogue with the government. As I've mentioned earlier, there are measures taken by the government to nip our challenges in the bud. In conclusion, I want to reaffirm the commitment of the House of Representatives to stand with you, to work with you, and to ensure that your future is bright. Thank you, and may God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Now, the Honorable Speaker of the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, off the back of a town hall meeting held at the National Assembly with youths, has also issued this statement on his verified Instagram and X handles, also calling on protesters to shelve plans, noting that the government is working on modalities to reduce the cost of living. Now, before that, we were discussing with our in-house guest as well, but we still have correspondents in the field who are waiting to be debriefed. We'll go back to the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Uyo, to get a quick wrap-up of the situation at the Water Fountain Park and other locations within Akwa Ibom State. Now we can see protesters, as earlier we didn't see any at all. We now see a group, just a handful of protesters in tricycles and also some holding banners as they are heading to the Unity Park, one of the designated converging points in Uyo, where they have been scheduled to converge and make their demands known to the government. Earlier, you would recall that David Isong joined us to give us a situation update, noting that there is increased security presence across the Nsikak Edwalk Avenue, otherwise known as 4 lanes in Akwa Ibom State, and would see if and get back to David Isong for more updates following these visuals greeting our screens. Hello, David, can you hear us?
I'm here.
All right, very well, David. You can see some protesters mobilizing. Kindly bring us up to speed on what is developing at the moment.
Okay, so immediately after our call, they moved from Waniba to a wait housing estate where they are supposed to go around some streets here in the estate. Unity Park. Now, the essence of them going there is, according to some of the organizers, they say they want to go there so the governor can come and address them. And if the governor does not address them, they will move down. If you a bit to the back, you'd see some policemen. Most of them are behind them, escorting them down to the location, and also to ensure that the protest is peaceful. But then again, if you look back again, you see that the number of protesters are quite few. I think I counted up to like 15 or 20, which is unless we are in a state where we have not at most 7 million Akwa Ibomites, and only 20 are here, which goes to show that despite the federal government interventions, despite the pleas by ministers, state governors, they still insisted that they want to protest, so that most of them say they want a change in governance. Most of them say they want change in reverting in pump price. A whole lot of demands.
These protesters, unlike we have in Abuja, where the take it back is taking ownership, is there a said leader of this number of protesters behind you?
Yeah, if you can look behind me, you'd see that there is a banner. There's some people holding banners, and I think some of the leaders are at the middle trying to cheer their members down to the venue.
Are there any willing to speak to you?
So,
well, David, can we have someone speak to us this morning there?
Let's come together as one.
Okay, I think I have one of the organizers. Please, you're live on ADBN TV. Kindly tell me your name, please.
Okay, my name is Ama Richard.
Okay, so Ama Richard is here. He's going to tell us the reason why he's protesting and the possible results that he wishes to get at the end of this process. So Ama, please, you're live on ADBN. Tell me why we are here today. What's really going on here in Uyo?
Come on now. It's only one thing: bad government. We are here to end bad government. My parents are hungry. Our children are hungry. The youths are hungry. So which of these things don't they know? We are here to end it.
Okay, now a quick question. Most of these government officials, they've tried to intervene. They've asked that there should be a dialogue between you and the government. Have you engaged this government in some series of dialogues?
The only dialogue is that there's a good government. Everybody is inclusive. Everyone is inclusive. Firstly, the government has been bad. There are no jobs in this state. The people are suffering. We only have good roads. Nothing is show for it. School fees are high. Prices of food have skyrocketed. We can't even afford Gary, as common as Gary. Beans we cannot, rice we cannot. So what are we here for? What kind of the government is?
Now with this protest, are you certain that at the end of this protest we are going to have a bit of a renewed hope, a renewed change in the country?
They don't have a choice. They don't have a choice. It has to be changed. If it's possible, the people that can't do this job should resign. If it's possible.
All right. So Abito, there you have it. Most of one of the organizers said that he is hopeful that at the end of this is going to come out top here.
Thank you very much for bringing us up to speed with the situation in Uyo, where we see protesters defying the weather and converging. We'll go back to other correspondents in the field, but let's come back to our Abuja studios now. Chijoke, we still have guests there now. Let's get their perspective as well.
Most certainly. Let me cross over to you now, Mr. Rasheed. We saw the footage from Uyo where there's a relative short number of people, out there on the street protesting. Our reporter there said he counted about 15 people. In contrast to the heavy presence of security personnel that we earlier saw on our screen. Now, in this situation, I just want to ask, is it that people are discouraged from coming out to protest? Have they suddenly grown cold feet? Or are they scared of, some sort of clampdown by security personnel. What's the problem here?
Well, I think people are just being analytical and they are being realistic to the situation. And you mentioned yesterday there was a town hall meeting. And if you listen vehemently, and if people do the research to verify what the ministers have said, you realize that their efforts have been on ground even before now. I know maybe it seemed like these ministers are just coming up, but it's not true. For example, you mentioned the NYouth, National Youth Investment Fund. It was existing before. It's not something new. And because of low turnout of applicants, and a lot of people got these funds. So, and as at last year, when a reassessment was done of it, it was identified that there were low number of people that applied, and those that even applied, a lot of people got funding, and then when they are asked to repay back the loan or just the proper settlement, it was not done properly. And at some point they said, okay, let's suspend this thing, and then they suspended, went back to do a review, started the review and do the documentation, set up a proper team, last with the proper stakeholders, and then the fund was the Minister of Youth requested that the Federal Executive Council bring this back up and let them prepare, because if you remember, the approval of the fund wasn't 2-3 weeks ago, it's been months ago, which means the Minister of Youth has actually been working to actually create opportunities for young people.
Well, Mr. Rasheed, you know this information, or you're privy to this information because you are the executive assistant to the Minister of Youth Development. The common youth, Nigerian youth out there, those probably didn't have this information all this while until the recent statement was made. Why has this not been made public until now?
The nation seems there's an information
gap between your ministry, the ministry that you work for, and the Nigerian youths themselves.
Okay, I would disagree with that. The reason I would disagree with that is, if you remember, like I said, the structure was there, and at some point it had to be discontinued. And then for you to have a proper assessment of this, to request for the return of this fund, and so as to reach out to more young people, it is important to actually do a proper homework, do proper assessment, identify the gaps, identify the challenges. And we've had Twitter space, X spaces, where we've had the discussion before now. And if you also remember, it has been in the news. It's not once, twice. You remember the minister always reiterates.
I was following the X space you just talked about. One of the comments I saw there was that there had been a lacuna from the 30th of last year between the last post and this post intimating Nigerians on the National Youth Investment Fund. They said it most felt as though this protest was what awoken the X handle of the ministry.
Okay, so I think there's a clear answer for that. Remember that it was Youth and Sport Development, so it was defunct, and when it was separated, the ministry, those that were in charge of it, the sport, they had those handles. And then there was a need for restructuring of how to separate the youth and then the sport, and that was why. So in the process, you remember there was a post before some months ago. So, but there were some glitches and all of that. So we needed to get, and in doing that, it is linked to a domain that has been joined together before. So you have to properly do this separation that went through NIRA, went through and Glassy Backbone, and all the tech institutions aligned to that. So those conversations and those assignments needed to be done properly. And then when all of that were activated was when it now came. In fact, it wasn't until then. The conversation has been on Twitter with other stakeholders, and the engagement has been going where the ministry has been involved, until we then get that, and then we're sure of the proper means of communication and everything is actually secured. That was why I came there. But the conversation has started even on X before that day.
We'll come back to clear up this perceived communication gap, but it's also important to hear from both sides, and I'm sure those youths who had been following on X and also watching now have this as an explanation as to why it took that long to put out the statement. But now let's go back into the field. Here in Abuja, it's getting quite interesting. There are now protesters protesting against the protesters. Now it's more like a pro-government movement saying that the government of the day needs more time. Our correspondent Fumilola Adeyemi is still in the fields, and let's see if we can get a situation update in this regard. Fumi, we are with you now. Bring us up to speed. Which group is this and what are their demands?
Okay, right now we have some group here that are calling that no protest. They are for the no protest, and they said they are protest. They say although they are hungry, but they don't support the protest. They are youth of Nigeria also, but they say no to protest, although they are hungry. I have one of them here. Yes. And he's willing to speak with us. Although he's hungry, but he's not out for protest.
We are here today, this morning. We are saying no to this protest because of violence. Although we are hungry for long. The cost of living is very hard now for everybody. Transportation, fare, everything. But we are saying no to protest because of we don't want violence. We don't want all those hoodlums to come and root or
asking why he doesn't want the protest to hold, considering the fact that he has just mentioned that he's hungry. There is no food. There is no, the high cost of living is there. The removal of fuel subsidy is also another thing that he's suffering from. Why exactly does he not want the protest to hold?
The Vanda, all those army, they are there, and we are saying no to violence. That is why we are here, for one Nigeria and together. Thank you. Who want talk?
Now, since you don't want to protest,
yes.
Why? You said you are hungry.
Yes.
Why don't you want protest?
You want me to cause scatter your radio network?
Come, live.
Now we're done.
You said you are hungry.
Yes.
So why don't you want protest?
The protest go cost many things. So if you say me and you no go like am at the end of the day. If I go there inside the protest, you no go even like one stand beside me, say, cause sitting there inside me. So this one now like this, no protest. I be them supposed to this. Suppose they say they say we must get down for myself. We need peace, we need peace with them, but we like to they do thing. Our man go come down, but we know. Maybe they no protest, so no more protest.
Fumi, can you please ask him if they have a leader and who is behind their storming of the Boshoda Viola Stadium?
You know, say they understand me now. So now it's I get to tell you. You understand?
Okay. Do you have a leader? Do you have a leader of this pro-protest?
Yeah, now. Yes, leaders who the rest of the country right now. Leaders must.
Let him get us one leader to speak.
Understand?
Okay, is he around now? Is one of them around?
Yes, now. They are around. Just
Can the leader come and talk to us?
The leader will come between.
Now, once that is all sorted out, is an interesting dynamics. While some groups say they're saying no to protest, they're using protest as a tool to say no to protest. It almost feels like there is a conflict of interest in how the Nigerian youths perceive their situation and what they are using as a tool to engage the government in dialogue, which you said is one of the important ways to go about this. But there seems to be an information gap even amongst certain groups we see on the streets. In Abuja, the MK Abiola Stadium is the venue. We're still seeing persons who are contravening that order and saying no to protest by protesting.
Well, it is actually a very funny but sad development for us as a people. Over time, we have all agreed as a people that we have the right
to protest. Right? If our fears are that people could hijack a peaceful protest and it becomes something else, we should be talking about that and looking for modalities to ensure that these protests are peaceful rather than calling on people not to protest, because it's more or less you're saying what the Constitution has given to me as a right to ventilate my grievances against government and have them listen to me and take actions is being taken away. Funny as the people who are just on the screen are looking, honestly speaking, it is very, very disheartening, because to me, to what I just saw on the screen now, they look like people who have been paid maybe 3,000 naira to come and stand there and say no to protest.
I mean,
there's a post that is going viral on social media, how that people are being sponsored to say no to protest that the government suspects is being sponsored. Last week, somebody called me in my community and was asking me, I heard that women are going to Igbo Square, that the government is going to share rice as palliatives to them. I was like, I've not heard anything like that, so I don't have any formal information as to whether that is true or not. Interestingly, it turned out that when these people got there, they were handed banners to say no to protest. And some of them, when they came back, they said this is what they saw. And that was not the information that took them to that place. It's unfortunate that there are people who are instigating people to stand and oppose what Nigerians mean for good.
I see you sitting on easy with this.
Let me just land. I feel this shouldn't be happening. I feel this should not be happening. What our security agents should have done is find a way of ensuring that this peaceful protest does not degenerate. They make reference to what happened in 2020, the MSAS protest. You and I know very well that that protest was peaceful and very well organized. Because till today, we believe as young Nigerians that those who sabotaged that protest were sponsored, because they saw that the protest was gaining momentum. People thought that it wasn't going to last for 2 days, but it went beyond that, and they saw that it was building up.
Let's get this thought as well.
Came to disrupt the peaceful process, and then it became something else.
Well, let's get this thought as well.
So the thing is, while we say some people have the, or I mean, you say everybody has the right to make demands and to look for their country being a very developed country and everybody. So if some people have the right to protest, why do the others not have the right to say we don't want to protest? And you can say clearly somebody has said something.
Now refuging that allegation on alleged sponsorship.
No, but that's we also know that those that are protesting, some of them are actually sponsored as well. Because it's sponsored. Yes, and so I'm not saying that these are young people that and as you can see, they have asked them to identify their leader. So maybe when the leader comes, you will hear from the resume if anybody sponsored. And they're not the only one. You went to Uyo, we saw Uyo. The correspondent say a state of about 7 million people, and there are just like 20 people on the street, which means people are beginning to think and listen to what the government are saying. And at that point, that's where we need to work, because it has to be dialogue. You don't say you go to the street and then create.
Not to profile the people that we have just seen on our screen.
Yes, at all. We shouldn't.
If we take a look back at the first set of protesters that came in together with the human rights activist Barrister Adedeji, and in comparison to the people that we just saw speaking, who had their banners turned upside down, you will certainly agree with me that this last set of people most likely look like political talks or people who are often used for toggling in situations like this. And having, like I said, we are not profiling, but the evidences are too glaring for us to ignore.
But the same guy, I really don't know him. He observed himself and then turned the banner.
He said a lot of things.
Yes.
He said a lot of things in line with what the initial protesters said. Hunger in the land, unemployment, high cost of living, expensive food, a lot of things. Yet he said he's anti-protest. It just doesn't make any sense.
No, it does, because
why does it make sense?
It's not only in Nigeria that people protest. And as far as I know, and as far as you all know, nobody has said no one should not protest from the government. the people, there are some people that believe that at this point we need a protest because we feel the economic hardship, which is glaring. Everybody understands that. So there's no challenge with that, and the government has actually agreed to say yes, there is this. But as we've said, he has mentioned something about palliative. If you remember, the structure of giving palliative is the federal government provides